Good, beautiful morning, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Shortcuts for Your Soul. My name is William Michael Forbes. I'm a spiritual medium, a channel, and an intuitive life coach. We're at a very interesting juncture for humanity, and I've got with me a group called the Ascended who want to talk about the idea that humanity is at peril. I find it interesting that they chose to say at peril and not in peril. They said in peril is what we will be in if we don't avoid the peril. I ask them, what do they mean by we're in peril? And they say very simply, we have not learned how to live correctly as a cooperative, living, sentient group of beings. We've not learned to live harmoniously, correctly together as a collective. That there are different branches on the tree, but the tree works together to sustain itself. You must understand that your humanity is a branch of life. And whether you call your branch of humanity black or white or oriental or yellow or green or blue, it does not matter. The leaves on the tree don't matter what leaf is doing what job. Every leaf on the tree serves the tree. And the human species and the branch of the human species are not working together very effectively. You have emotional considerations that are destroying the very fabric of cohesion that is naturally supposed to exist between each other in the human realm. In the animal kingdom, that cohesion is already established. In the plant kingdom, that cohesion is already established. In the marine kingdom, that is already established. In the realm of stone and mineral, there is a harmony established. Only in the human realm do we see needless, destructive, we might even say life-negating behaviors and considerations. You have a wonderful, wonderful opportunity at a life that few of you could imagine experiencing, but which is available to everybody. Some of the key elements in the human consciousness that is keeping you on a track for being in peril are such functions of behavior as greed, anger, rage. These three emotions are highly destructive to your species. The one that is the most evil is greed. There is certain benefits to one's effort that one should reap. But how many mansions do you need when there are thousands living exposed to the dangers of the elements? Of all of the vices you will deal with, greed is your most destructive towards yourselves. And initially, the idea of having more than other people seems to be a very good thing. But now you are beginning to see the broader ramifications of the imbalance that such an energetic manifestation as greed will have upon your species. Indeed, upon your whole planet. You think that the function of the shift in your planetary system is by chance? It is a manifestation of consciousness. A consciousness in which every living sentient being participates, whether they are aware of it or not. From the single-celled organism to the fully developed human being, and every creature in between that spectrum, every one of you is participating in what is unfolding for your planet, indeed, right now. You have a very limited period of time because you measure your existence by time while you're in a physical body. And while you may have somewhat of an eternity to sort things out, why you want to wait? Why wait? Why not sort it out now? So the function of greed has led to power, authority, control, manipulation, deception, destructiveness upon yourselves and the other life forms around you that share this incredible jewel of existence that you find yourself moving through, albeit very short in terms of time, but you are all moving through this dimension of creation. And the few of you that innocently began thinking it was okay to have more at the expense of others, well, now you begin to see the full-blown outcome as it begins to play out on your social and geopolitical stages around the world. And time is limited. For every one of you, time is limited while you're in a physical embodiment. But you are moving towards an event that the functional behaviors that you have cultivated in the name of power, authority, control, we'll just simply say greed, much simpler to say it that way, that this imbalance is occurring literally, geologically, astronomically, an imbalance is occurring. You have your automobiles and you do that thing with your tires where you make certain that they are balanced so they don't get vibrating all out of control. Well, your consciousness, your emotional consciousness collectively as a species is designed to be the counterweight to sustain and maintain the balance in the function of your consciousness and your experience in this dimension. Wars, famines are not random events, but products of accumulated emotional energy that has as its result an imbalance in the system. In the last 72,000 years, you have had at least 6 such instances in various degrees where your planetary consciousness, emotionally, energetically, became very imbalanced towards what you would call evil. In this case, we're using the primary term greed, as greed is typically responsible for more evil than most other emotional considerations. But that your various degrees of function in greed have resulted in various degrees of imbalance needing to restore to balance. You know that weight on the wheel as you go down the highway, it will go out of balance. If you go a little faster or a little slower, you might restore the balance. You might restore the balance that wheel on your vehicle. Well, so too your collective energies together can do the same thing. Right now, you are very out of balance energetically. You are seeing the phenomena of your migrating polar magnetic fields are shifting around. And your science has found evidence that this has happened before. And we've spoken to you about this before. This has happened before in various degrees and intensities. Some more intense than others. But each corresponds to the degree and extent that the imbalance is sustained and maintained. The stronger and more negative the emotional quality that your species collectively engaged in, the more pronounced the effect would be in physical time and space. As equally as you know that certain emotional qualities can cause your body to feel a certain way, so too does your collective emotion cause the earth and the time and the space that you exist in to function in very specific and precise ways that are measurable if you were paying attention. Your science does not yet quite have the ability to measure your emotional fields. Individually and collectively, your primitive devices such as lie detectors can regulate certain changes in physiology in conjunction with certain information that is presented to an individual, and you could say that they're lying or they are telling the truth. But there's no measure for these fields and how they work beyond the framework of the individual's body. What happens to your emotions after they leave your body? Your science does not consider that, nor do they have the instruments to measure that function, that dynamic, energetic function that you all participate in, but very few of you are aware that you are even doing so. But that the function of every emotion that you have, individually and collectively, yields itself as an effect on time and space and matter. It is not very complex to understand this. You've been upset and you've been filled with joy, and you observe what happens to your body. You observe how people change and respond around you when you're feeling a certain way. Well, that is not just limited to your human consciousness, to your brothers and sisters. It affects also your emotional energy, it affects the plants and the birds. In fact, all of your behaviors are influenced by the functions of your emotions, individually and collectively. It's why you can find people getting caught up in aggression and violence, and then more people and more people and more people, because the emotional field has a process of induction that, well, captures the weak-minded into the process of just going along with the emotional energy. But you are at peril now, and in about 8 years' time, you will be in peril. While you are at peril, you have a very short window of about 8 years to make the necessary corrections in your emotional collectivism. Collectivism emotionally is what you choose to function as energetically, individually, and as a collective whole. While your science has been trying to find ways of adjusting the electromagnetic interplay between the sun and the earth in order to prevent such events from happening, as equally as trying to build vast networks of underground cities to house those that can escape what effects might come should you not be able to change the function of your emotional energy collectively. And yet there's still this window to do so. There's still a window to do so because you are only at peril right now. You are not quite in it. But your science is beginning to see there's changes happening geologically, geophysically upon your planet. Tectonic activity, volcanic activity, alterations in weather patterns, and very few of you still understand that your emotions are influencing your environment all the time. And that there's only two qualities of emotion that you can use while you exist in this physical dimension. And we can define them in the simple terms of love and fear, of which greed is the foremost destructive one in the spectrum of fear, whereas love is the most powerful in the spectrum of love. If you want to get out of peril, then it means you need to shift your collective emotional energy from the vibrational state of fear to the vibrational state of love. You understand that there's a function of coherence and incoherence in terms of energy. And you can have a coherent negative energy and you can have a coherent positive energy, and each will have a different effect. Right now, you are getting into coherently negative energy while you are fighting amongst each other and your radical ideas about whose God is the right God and whose beliefs are the right beliefs. And you weren't all meant to have the same beliefs, but you weren't also not meant to force your beliefs upon others. You simply offer them as an opportunity to give others a chance to experience a different reality, but not to force others into the reality that you would want them to be in. That just simply is a function of greed in and of itself. You must be the way I say you should be. That's another form of greed, using force and fraud. And understand that the function of greed is very broad and extremely damaging to your collective social fabric. And there are outcomes to every emotional consideration that you will indulge in. It does not matter what armies you build, what weapons you construct. If you are coming from the vibrational spectrum of fear, there will be very precise and specific results in the fabric of time and space. As equally as if you come from the spectrum of love and grace, kindness and compassion, there will be very different effects in time and space. But in your human experience, every event that you observe has its roots to an internalized collective emotional agreement that you agree with greed, you agree with anger, you agree with love, you agree with peace. But what you see collectively is what you see collectively. So while you are at peril, you have this short window to make a conscious decision individually, which ultimately results in a collective outcome. Will you choose to surrender your greed, your power, your authority, your control for the sake of those things in themselves? There's a difference between leadership from love and leadership from fear. There's a very big difference between the two of them. But we also have it on good authority that it is well within the scope and capability of humanity to make this shift from at peril to restoring harmony and balance to your planetary consciousness. You cannot separate yourselves from the participation you have in what is occurring. Not one of you can. As we interact with you, our goal is to induce a vibration closer to love than fear. And yet it's very important to be very aware of the functions that fear have, as equally it is to be aware of the functions that love has, so that you can make a choice. We do not judge you. We simply are pointing out to you that there are functions of your consciousness that will reap very specific outcomes in your experience. That is all we're here to do, is to remind you that you have the ability to shift and change your collective emotional energy from one state to another. This is the journey that you're on right now. So when we say you are at peril, you are at peril, you are not in peril. In peril is a bit more difficult a situation to transcend than at peril. It's the difference between standing on one side of the door and walking through the threshold. Well, you are standing before the threshold right now, and you've got emotional qualities that you've cultivated individually and collectively that have set the stage for what will come next. Unless, of course, you change the function of your collective emotional energy so that you can alter or change things accordingly. This is what we wanted you to hear today, that it is important you understand that your single most difficult challenge is to overcome and surrender your greed. It is the most difficult of all of the vibrational perspectives of fear, is greed. It is the most difficult one to surrender and overcome, because of course you are living in a body that is based in pleasure, and of course greed can give you lots of pleasure and that could of course mislead you. Spend time each day, hold love in your heart in the way that you can, not just for yourself but for all beings. This entire world, hold that function of love in your consciousness for all beings. For those that are in greed are lost in greed and will need perhaps the nudge of your love to change their consciousness. For the function of your love, if it's true, will cause you to say and do things that can be highly transformative for individuals that are lost in lower vibrational spectrums of consciousness, the spectrum of fear, that is. So you have this wonderful opportunity to demonstrate your own creative consciousness in living form, and you are doing it anyway. Even if you are doing it in a not so pleasant way, you are still demonstrating that you are divine creators, that you are able to manufacture your experiences of being in time and space. That is something that can never be halted or stopped, is that each and every one of you is creatively participating in the function of this dynamic creation that you all live in right now. Every one of you, deliberately or unconsciously, participating in the function of creation. That is your true nature, to be a creator. It is certainly nice to have seen some of the civilizations that did rise and sustained and maintained their level of consciousness, some of them even what you would call ascending to different states of existence, because they no longer required the mechanism of time and space and matter as instruments of learning, such as you still have on your plateau of consciousness right now, where you are there, where you learn from time and space and matter, you learn from certain emotional qualities. So here you are again, receiving information that can give you the wonderful opportunity of demonstrating a profound, simplistic truth. You see your global poles are shifting, what you call your magnetic poles are shifting, because your consciousness is imbalanced. If you all come together in a very clear and decisive way and let your words, your actions, your deeds, your economies, your government rules be based in the foundational energy and principles of love versus the foundation and principles of fear, you could very well witness the simple and yet wondrous miracle of changing something that many of you believe is beyond your capability, to alter or change the magnetic movement of the energy on this planet. But you do that all the time with yourselves every day. When you get excited, you shift your magnetic energy. When you're angry or upset, you shift your magnetic energy. At all times that you exist in this dimension, you're interplaying with electromagnetic fields as mechanisms of creation in time and space. So you have this wonderful opportunity, individually or collectively, and if it is not achieved this time, then it may be achieved another time. There have been civilizations before you that have come, arisen, ascended, and left, and others that have risen, not quite ascended, collapsed, and repeated. And you are in that cycle still right now, that cycle of rising and collapsing, rising and collapsing. But the cycle has been broken before by other civilizations that are no longer in need of the physical dimension. And you'll have as much time as necessary, as time is an infinite quantity of existence, what you call eternity. Your consciousness, your soul, has that infinite element to your existence that you rarely get to glimpse while you're in a physical body, but it exists nonetheless, whether you know it or not. It still exists, as you know now that many millions and millions of galaxies exist in the universe around you, and yet you used to think that you were the center of the whole universe. Now you find you are just smaller than a grain of sand in a cosmic beach of consciousness. And so you have this wonderful opportunity, and it will be quite delightful if you choose to elect to shift the direction of your consciousness individually and collectively. There are individuals that will transcend. There are individuals that will ascend. If you are unable to get out of the at peril position, and even if you get into peril and things shift again as they have done before, then those of you that come back into embodiments will again start the cycle again, as it has happened so for the last 72,000 years. more repeatedly than in previous historical timelines prior to what your science can measure with their understanding. We transmit to you the highest possible vibration of love that you can be open and receptive to receiving that, to allow the function of love to be that which guides your words, your thoughts, and your actions in any moment of time and space, that your function of love can emerge as an act of your own free will. In whatever way we can resonate that in you from these words, we will do so. That is, the transmission of a vibration, if it's received, can be influential in changing and altering the consciousness that you currently exist in, much the same way as a person walks into a room and begins to laugh, and you find yourself wanting to laugh with them. Because that process of offering a vibration and receiving it offers the receiver and the sender the opportunity to unite in harmony. So consider that you are only at peril. And this position of at peril is a time frame that will last about 8 of your standard Earth years, during which time you can turn in a new direction collectively and individually, because there are those of you that individually know very well what we're speaking of. You do not have to remain in this dimension, nor do you have to bear the consequences of the errors of those who chose a different path. It is your time now, but know that you cannot escape the effects of your own causing. The emotions that you indulge in will most certainly reap effects in your experience of existence, and they are now. And you're observing them now all over the world. Thank you. So that's a group that I call the Ascended that have been with me for about 6 years now. Wonderful souls, very beautiful souls. Hi there. Good morning. Hi. Someone's saying here, when I listen to you, all my animals gather around. That happens a lot in our classes, in our master classes. A lot of the people's animals come up and jump on their laps when the Ascended Masters are talking or teaching through me. Yeah, that's a wonderful thing. Thank you so much. Your animals know. Animals know and will always go to the place where there's more life, more abundance. They naturally do that, animals. Hi, William. Looking forward to seeing you at 12. Hi, Pamela. Yes, well, yeah, I'll check my messages afterward. We'll see you then. It is a simple subject, isn't it? Simple and powerful. Hang on, let's go here. Hi, what messages do my guides have for me today? Hi, Janine. Wow. Yes. Choose both. They're telling me to tell you to choose both of those opportunities, not one or the other. Choose one and the other. Choose both of those opportunities that you're dealing with right now. Hello. Hi, Ping Boucher. Is the male energy more controlling right now? How can I stand in front of arrogance? How can I beam love? Thank you for representing a male with coherence. Thank you very much for that question. Again, the moment, excuse me, Buddha often says to me, the middle path will keep you out of trouble. But if you want to deviate over to the path of good, you can create variances in that. But again, the idea of beaming love to others, you don't have to beam it to others. You just have to go deeply into the vibration of love as you understand it to be. They tell me this, that every single human being has some understanding of what love is for them. It may be very primitive. It may be just the idea that having sex, or the idea that you give somebody a little gift. It doesn't matter what the degree or function of that love is, but that you are willing to function to the highest extent of your understanding of what love is. So even the person lying on the street who only loves his bottle of wine is in that level of consciousness contributing that energy of his love to his experience and to those around him. While his manifestation of love could be considered low on the spectrum of possibilities, when you compare it to the divine expressions of your ascended masters, who can transmit a profound vibration of upliftment and well-being to large numbers of people quite easily and effectively. There are various degrees of love, but each and every one of you has within you the capacity to know and understand what love is from you inside, what love feels like to you inside. And the moment you go to that place, the moment you go to the place inside yourself where you feel the vibration of love as you know it to be, rest in there, be in there, breathe in there, exist in there. And the very nature of that act will transmit that vibrational frequency out from your body. The moment you go into an energetic emotion, in that very moment, you are transmitting a vibration out, just as the sound waves from this body are emanating out through this form and into the time and space around the body, but also through this technology. So the moment you go into an emotional energy, whether it is love or fear, you transmit that to space and time. The moment you feel it, to the degree and extent that you feel it, to that degree and extent, you are transmitting it into your experiential reality on this dimension. So the very simple answer for you, dear soul, is rest and be in the vibration of love. Remain there. Breathe deeply into it. Feel the vibration of love as you understand it to be. And that will be a contribution that very few people know they can make. But once an individual knows they can make that contribution, the very nature of doing that, the very nature of resting in the vibration of what you understand love to be inside yourself, that act for yourself will elevate you up. The simple willingness to say, I'm going to connect to a feeling of love inside myself, that mere act begins to shift your energy into the vibration of love. And as you do that, you begin to transmit what you are vibrating with. And so the function of your love then serves a greater purpose when you are simply resting in it and being in it and being deeply, profoundly intimate with the vibration of your love to such an extent that you need not concern yourself with where it's going to go and how it's going to affect the world around you, because it will. And that principle remains true even in the spectrum of fear. You can be in a very angry state and the same principles of manifestation and transmission apply. The same fundamental laws of what you would call physics apply to the process of whether you function on a vibrational plane of love or a vibrational plane of fear. The same principles are involved, although the effects will be very different. And there are those that have learned how to take an energy like anger and turn it into good, where you have that power and ability to be able to take that which is not good and make it into something wonderful. You can transform, or what you might call sublimate, emotional considerations from one state into another as an act of your own free creative will. But that's a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. Amanda, may I ask my guides what I'm supposed to do with my highly active dreams? Many messages. Thank you. Okay, they're telling me to tell you right now, Amanda, it's very important before you go to sleep that you ask only for information that's relevant to your development. Ask for information that's relevant to your development, because they're telling me that your mind is going off in different directions too. You need to stay focused on receiving only the information that's relevant to your development. And you make that statement before you go to sleep at night. Yes, make that statement before you go to sleep at night. I only want to receive information that's relevant for my development. And you'll find that the busyness of your dreams is going to diminish significantly. And you're going to find you're going to have more lucid conversations with some of the archangels and ascended masters that want to interact with you, because you got so many open channels now. You're getting too much information at once, so you need to focus it down to what's relevant to your development. It's really cool. Uh, oh, you're very welcome. Thank you so much. Which is the meaning of the handwritten message in the heart-shaped booklet? What is the meaning of the handwritten message in the heart-shaped booklet? Only one meaning for that, love. Only one meaning for that, love. Love. You know that. You already knew that. Hi. Hi there. Well, thanks for that butterfly. That's beautiful. Thanks so much for those wonderful gifts. I appreciate that. There's just so much space out there, and yet we only manifest here on this one speck of dust. That's a really interesting consideration, Susie. Think about that. Is this the only place that you think you can manifest? In astral projection, you can move your awareness to different points of time and space. You can do that. You can literally learn to do that. Move your awareness to different points of time and space. So creation is not limited to the body or time or space. You can affect creation in different ways. It blows my mind, but in a good way. Thank you. Thank you for the lit up rose. Appreciate that. Thank you, Amanda. Close your eyes and listen. You will connect with him. That's very true. You can feel the vibration of truth if you go into your heart. Just as equally as you will know the vibration of falsity by being in your heart. It's a wonderful gift to say to somebody, close your eyes and receive these vibrations. Receive the wisdom. Receive the truth. You're very welcome, Amanda. So glad it helps. Thanks, United Heart. Thank you so much for that, Kathy. Thank you for sharing the live. Go into a room and just feel love for everyone, and the room changes. Yes, absolutely, Angela. That's absolutely true. You can literally sit, and I used to do that on buses when I rode buses. I'd sit on buses, and I would just go into a feeling of peace, and I just project it, and the bus would become silent. Sometimes I'd think about laughter or jokes in my head, and people would start laughing. You can explore and experiment with your creative capacity. But what they're saying today is really important. We are at peril right now. Not in peril, we're at peril. Where our collective unconsciousness is in a very low vibrational place, and it's causing a lot of unpleasant changes. I need to make a big decision, and I need some help with it. If you want help making a decision, book a one-on-one reading with me. Go to my website, williammichaelforbes.com. Book a reading with me, because the guides and angels and the information that you get will be specific to you and your situation and your circumstance, and it's very exacting. If you want to experience some of the things that people have said about having a reading with me, go to my testimonials page on my website, and you'll see hundreds of testimonials there of people who have had readings and their lives have been profoundly altered and changed. And ultimately, virtually everybody who comes to our masterclass, they end up coming to the classes. They come to a reading, they come to the master classes, because their lives are changed. Hi. Thank you so much for that. The joy being. Thank you for that. Appreciate it, Kathy. Thank you for the support. I'm just taking a look here. Okay, there we are. So I just had to look out the window, see if it started raining yet. Looks like we're gonna get some rain. But I'm so grateful to have been able to deliver this message. I'm so thankful for the Ascended, and I'm looking forward to seeing students of 102. I look forward to seeing you at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. Next week is our big week where we get to actually let go of and release all the old emotions that we no longer need to carry forward with us. If anybody wants to know more about our master classes, then go to my website, williammichaelforbes.com, or if you're on TikTok, click the Linktree link below my bio in TikTok, and you'll get taken to all kinds of wonderful opportunities. Thank you. Just seeing I've got everything else. Okay, wonderful. So listen, guys, I will see you on Monday. I'm yeah. Sorry, I will. I'll definitely do that. Um, wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so I think next week we'll start bringing people back on live. We'll have a sharing of information with the people that want to share their information. And I'll look forward to seeing all of you next week. To my Patreons, we just got another couple of weeks before we will be getting into our patrons only live event on the 7th at 7 p.m. And have yourselves a wonderful and a joyful day. And I will see you guys on Monday.